Welcome to Crossroads. I'm your host, Joshua Philipp. Today we have with us Steve MUDFLAP McGrew. Steve, great to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I haven't now seen you since New York City.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we met recently in New York. Didn't work out doing the whole filming, so he's now sailing around the oceans. Where are you at right now? You're on a cruise ship, right?
I am on a cruise ship. I'm in Cozumel, Mexico right now, which I like to call hillbilly Hawaii.
And for those of you who don't know, Steve is a professional comedian. He's with the Deplorables comedy show with Terrence Williams and those guys. So yeah, how's that working out for you, being a some kind of conservative comedian these days? What's that like?
Well, it's actually gotten better. For a while, it was horrible. It was people like, just you're a devil, you're a toothless hillbilly, Walmart, and now all of a sudden people are like, I think I am one of you guys. I do want to hear more from y'all. So it's been good. But I've been a conservative comic since the 90s. I mean, I was back preaching against Clinton back in those days. So I've been doing it forever.
So maybe we could go into that a little bit. I mean, we hear from some of these comedians like Seinfeld and stuff talking about how they refuse to perform on college campuses because comedy, right? You have to offend people. You have to take what's real and joke about it. And people they can't take that anymore for some reason. I mean, what's going on, man?
Well, they always say that, comedy, you hurt somebody's feelings now. That's somebody you're punching down or whatever. But comedy has a punchline, and a punchline is making fun of something. So you have to make fun of something to be a joke. And now, like, oh, that's not fun to joke. Why are you joking about that? Well, that's what humor is,
It's funny, the South Park guys, I heard them in an interview say it one time that, people get on them for making fun of this group or that group. They're like, we make fun of everybody, and the only way we would be biased is if we don't make fun of some group,
Yeah. Well, that's why I've called myself for years the equal opportunity offender, because I feel that same way. If you single out a group, you're making fun. But if I'm just making fun of anything and everybody and I don't care, then they go, well, I guess, he made fun of himself too.
One thing interesting in your field is it's one thing to see all these issues in society and be bothered by it and feel oppressed. I mean, because really a lot of, funny enough, conservatives are the ones who feel oppressed a lot of times because they can't speak they can't say what they think. If you're white, you're automatically the most evil thing in the world. If you're a man, you're double the most evil thing in the world. You can't get away from it. You are inherently evil in their eyes, and there's no way you can escape it, right?
Well, the white group is horrible. I mean, that's just because I was thinking about this the other day. If it's a parade, it's having a gay parade, and if it's a minority, it's a parade or having a march. And if a bunch of white people got together, they're having some kind of Klan rally over there.
There you are. But here's the thing. In your line of work, you don't get annoyed by it. You make fun of it. You laugh at it. You look at it and how ridiculous it is, and you just roll with it, man, right? And that's kind of what your work is online and on your comedy shows. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, I do. I try to find everything that I can make fun of, especially on Twitter. I've become I love Twitter. I'm addicted to Twitter. Matter of fact, some stupid tweet that I just put up last night, it got like 42,000 views overnight. And I'm like,
no. What'd you do? What have you done now?
I did. I do a character called Liberal Larry. I don't know if you've seen that with the little pink hat, and he's so I did a parody of him laying out in the desert, passing gas, trying to summon Eric Swalwell, calling up the masters of our past. And
I mean, maybe I don't know, man. Wait, so how'd that go viral? I mean, I'm wondering.
I don't know. It's like people just was like, "This is the greatest. I'm dead." That's the typical response now. I'm dead. So it was just weird. I just like to find things like that to make fun of. Like Eric Swalwell's foot. It was the mug that noise was a mug. That was not a mug. I have never.
Oh, you're talking about
Fartgate. You're
talking about Fartgate.
Wow, what
is that the one?
eat?
Is that the Fartgate scandal you're talking about?
Yeah,
what was it?
yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
Tell our viewers about that in case they haven't seen it.
Well, if you haven't seen it, Eric Swalwell apparently was doing an interview on TV, and this right in the middle of the interview, there was a, and he even like pauses, but then the excuse came out. Oh, that was the sound of a mug being pulled to the desk back at the studio. And I'm like, no, that was not.
Yeah, there was a big thing online about that too. They called it Fartgate, the conspiracy of what really was that sound that startled him. So
yeah,
I mean, hey, we can still laugh about this stuff, right? Did you see the was it Trump excusing pardoning the turkeys just recently? And he's on there and he's like, I mean, this is I think that it's funny enough. This is why a lot of conservatives like Trump. He's funny. I mean, if you can learn to laugh at this stuff, he's pardoning these 2 turkeys, and he's like, well, what did he say? He said, they're free to go now, but they've been subpoenaed out by Schiff, and he's looking into them and stuff. He's making fun of the journalists. He's like, but the journalists are gonna have a field day with this because apparently they're in the same family as vultures. I'm pardoning vultures.
Well, I don't know if you saw his speech last night at the rally in Florida. He was talking about Hunter Biden's energy knowledge, and he says to this guy down front, "What do you do?" And he goes, "Bail bondsman." And he goes, "Do you know Hunter Biden?" Like he is basically a stand-up comic that has great interaction. I mean, he can work a room. He could be in there just working a room.
Yeah, but it's all in perception. Some people are deeply offended by this, and some people they can laugh at it. I mean, in your experience being a comic, I mean, you said it's gotten better over the years, at least for guys like you who aren't afraid to offend to be funny. Tell us about that.
Well, like one of the things that I do now is I really hate seeing kids with cell phones. There's something about see a 8-year-old with a $1,000 iPhone when really, if you want to be safe, they should just have the old folks phone. That should be the phone that a kid has, is that the Cricket or whatever. And so basically I've been doing this thing about I hate seeing kids with cell phones because you always hear the parents giving the excuse, well, I need to know where they are. And I'm like, well, how about this? Tell them where to be. And then usually that gets a really big, but last night at the show, this woman goes, oh, and the audience turned on her like, oh, you're one of those, huh? It was really kind of fun to watch the people start. You can feel the conservatism getting bigger and bigger.
Well, and it's an interesting phenomenon. A lot of people these days who are considered conservatives, they're not like your Republican types. They're just people who are like, this is getting too crazy for me. Even a lot of like the, traditional Democrats are like, man, I don't know, you guys are getting a little too crazy for me. Or they start seeing things that are actually pretty dang funny, like these whole meme war type things, and like, okay, that's funny, I can laugh at that. Yeah, I agree with you. This is all completely ridiculous, and we can laugh at it. Right.
Well, look at the things that I think what most people are starting to see is how far the left has gone. It wasn't just like pushing to the left and for equality and we want this and that, and now it's just like, how freaky can we be? How far can we push this? Why aren't I allowed to wear a pig nose at work if I want to? I should be able to do, it's whatever. They're just trying to find out. Like, I thought it was so weird that there was more news about the baby Trump balloon being stabbed than there actually was. There was more people caring about that than actual babies dying.
Yeah, what kind of world do we live in now?
You know what I mean? So I think that makes normal people go, these freaks are just a little out of control.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the theme of your liberal Larry character. Tell us about liberal Larry first. How'd you come up with this whole persona?
Well, it was just watching the things that liberals say and watching what the conservatives were getting mad at. And I thought, how can I come up with a character that just pushes it so far to the extreme that people don't know if he's real or not? so that's how the liberal Larry came up with, like, this world will never be better until all white people have no control left. That'd be some of the stuff that I would post.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, you're an idiot. So that's how the whole thing came about.
Yeah, and for our viewers, I ran into Steve in New York recently, and he drags around this duffel bag with his like costume in it.
I have it right here.
just in case you get some random burst of inspiration, right?
Oh, like I said, I have filmed 2 or 3 videos in the ship this week. Just like one of them was about I think it's time for a Santa Claus to stop being a man. Stop forcing a male Santa on our kids, because that time has come and gone. Santa can be anything. Santa should be fluid. Matter of fact, Santa should be a gay woman, and Mrs. Claus, it'd be the perfect time right now, this season. Let's make it happen. That's what I was doing with Larry, and it was driving people crazy.
So, there was this satirical website a while back. It was a feminist, kind of making fun of feminism. And pretty much these guys started it to, push the bar and make it sound so insane that people would just find it funny. But they ended up making a public letter and like close the whole thing down because people actually got behind it. People not only thought it was real, but the extreme things that they were proposing, people actually agreed with, and they ended up becoming like one of the big time feminist websites. And they're like, okay, we're shutting this down, everyone. This was actually satire, but you don't seem to understand what satire is anymore because you become so crazy. So, I mean,
yeah, well, see, that's the point. Things have gotten so crazy, you can't tell what's not crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you seen this with your liberal Larry thing? Do people think it's real, or how does that go over for you?
Oh yeah. Well, that becomes the funny part to the conservatives that like Larry so much, is because they like to watch the liberals that are like, yeah, preach it, brother. Yeah, tell them you are so right on. It's so nice to finally hear somebody say the truth. And you're like, man, I just made that up. I don't even know where that came from.
And so, how do you do it now? I think what is the heart of comedy? It's kind of like you have to observe things that are true to some extent, and then you either have to, I think, say what everyone feels inside about it. Kind of break it down and be like, okay, the emperor has no clothes. You all think the emperor has clothes. He's not wearing any clothes, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
or you just try to emphasize how extreme it is. You enhance it a little bit. Is this your approach? How do you approach this?
Yeah, like one of the tweets Larry's tweets that got so much response was a woman wore a "Make America Great" hat into our yoga class the other day. I was so triggered I threw my kale smoothie at her. The whole room cheered. I was a hero. I don't know why the cops were called.
Oh no.
But it's that kind of stuff that people don't know whether to, is, yay, you should hate that hat, or wow, you're an idiot for even thinking about throwing a drink at somebody.
Well, and the sad, I mean, I don't know if it's funny or sad, is I could see that happening.
I can too.
And maybe that's part of what makes it funny, is there's a believable element to it. Like, okay, I feel like if I went to Starbucks right now, that actually might happen to me if I put one of those hats on.
Somebody might throw a drink at you, Yeah. Well, when I was in New York a while back with Terrence and I both we had Make America Great hats on in Times Square to shoot a video.
Oh, man.
And we posted a picture of it on Facebook, and you wouldn't believe how many people underneath were like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that," or "Weren't you scared for your lives?" And but they really thought you were just going to be seriously attacked in New York City for just having that hat on.
I mean, I could see it. You guys weren't attacked for having that hat on? How'd that go over for you?
No, it actually went pretty well. There was people that took pictures of us doing it, and there was people watching, but nobody came over, nobody said anything, nobody was like the typical, like those videos on Facebook that are like, hey, get that hat out of my face if I ever see a thing like that. No, there was none of that. Like, so I'm starting to wonder if it's lightening up. Is it getting better, or maybe some of those videos just might be just a little bit staged.
I mean, I could see it. At the same time, I think that 2016 tensions were a lot higher. You can only turn up your emotions full blast for so long before you get burned out by it. And I'd imagine a lot of people are just feeling burned out.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I feel that way sometimes about politics. As much as I like to do it and talk about it and make the videos, every once in a while my brain will go, hey, just go back to straight stand-up. Go try to think of something funny about kids today, you know.
Well, you're doing you're in a cruise ship now. Tell us a bit about the work you're doing there.
Well, I do, depending on the ships, a lot of them have comedy clubs. So I might do 2 shows a night in a comedy club, especially when there's 6,000 people. And then some of the other ships, I do the main theater room, which seats like 1,500 to 2,000 people. And so those rooms can really get rocking.
Oh, really?
That's what I like.
Now,
I like theater shows.
And of course, you know, it's not like the conservative cruise ship. This is a random audience, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, the random audience is the best. Like, sometimes if you're doing a show and people just come to a comedy club, they're not sure what they're going to get. But a show like this, your name is out there, you're on a poster, you've been there all week, they can look you up, they can find you online. If they come to see you, they're coming to see your show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they know what they're getting into, huh?
Right, right.
So how does that go over for you? Do you get people to go in there to like boo you the whole time? Like, how could you? How could you do that? How could you say that? Or is it like, you know, people actually want to go cheer you on and laugh? What are you experiencing?
Well, it's a very cheer you on and laugh. The only other thing you get on cruise ships that you hear besides laugh is, huh? What did he say? What did he say? Huh? What? I didn't. He said something about Trump. Oh, okay.
Oh no, really? I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, maybe that's the heart of comedy. You never know if they're telling the truth or if they're joking. You know, you never know if what they're saying is, you know, okay, maybe that actually happened. Maybe they're joking. There has to be that believable element to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've learned from working the ships is the thing about relationships. Because if you watch some of these older couples on the ships that are like, you know, in their 80s or 90s, they don't talk. And I think that's the key to a relationship, is don't talk to each other. And I found this out by watching them in the dining room. They don't talk. They don't even make eye contact. They just eat. Because I think if you look up and you make eye contact, that's when it goes bad. Because it'll be like, does that have salt, Bob? The doctor said you're not supposed to have salt. I know! I can't have salt! I want to die! I just want to die!
Look, see, you could be a relationship coach too, man. You got it all going for you.
It's amazing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you got the advice for parents. You got the advice for couples. I mean, what else you got?
Oh, I would love to be a relationship coach, because after 3 marriages, I've learned what to say and what not to say, you know, and when to say it, what not to say it, and when to talk and not to talk. Basically, just do whatever she wants to do in this day and age, right? Remember when the man used to run the house? You look at old magazines from like 1960s, and she's like, I need to get home and make dinner. You know, all those old ads like that. Oh, I hope he loves my coffee.
I think I've seen that one. Actually.
Yeah, none of that's happening today. And you know, hey, if you don't like my coffee, make it yourself. You know, it's that kind of.
if she makes it in the first place, yeah.
At all, you know what I mean?
How dare you suggest she would make coffee for you? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's one reason I love getting old magazines. If I go to antique stores, I look at old magazines just to see some of those commercials are like, ooh, you know, those things would be like, my floor might be too dingy for my husband.
Yeah. It's funny how much people have changed, man. I mean, even from when I was a kid, like growing up in the 90s and stuff, it's a whole different world. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, were you raised did your mom stay home? I don't know if you had a stay home mom, but
no, I had to raise myself childhood.
Oh,
had some good tough, you know, my mom worked, but you know, I had a grandfather who was he's a captain in the Marines, and stepdad who was a heavy machinery guy. Dad was an entrepreneur. Yeah, you know, I had some good strong male figures, you know.
Did he tell you get a gun and go outside?
What was that? Say it again.
Take your BB gun and go outside.
Oh, heck yeah, man. I remember growing up as a kid. Now, this might come as a shock these days, but look, this was the 90s in Southern California. I grew up in San Diego, Southern California. Yeah. You know, me and my dad, my little brother, we'd go to the park. We'd pull our BB guns out of the trunk. They looked like real guns. We'd walk through a public park, you know, kids swinging on swings. Nobody bats an eye. We'd go up in the fields behind the school, and we'd shoot stuff, like bugs and stuff. And nobody cared. Nobody cared. That it was and it's funny these days. You see it like, oh my God, you know, you did that, and I'm like, you know, nobody cared back then. You know, it wasn't a big deal.
You know, it's funny you say that about nobody cared, because just the other day, I have a waterfall with a koi pond in my backyard, and I noticed that there was a mouse that would come out of the rocks and down to the water. And I was like, oh, I have a mouse. I went and got my BB gun, and I'm standing on my deck waiting for this mouse to show itself again. And I thought, my neighbors are going to call the cops on me. That really popped into my head. Like,
I mean, I could see that on Cops. Like, they show up, and there's this guy with like long hair, like sitting on the porch with it in his like pajamas. You know, like I'm waiting for the mouse.
I'm just gonna shoot a mouse when he comes out of that rock there. That's what I'm gonna do. And so I was trying to hide my BB gun. I was sitting like this with my BB gun next to me, because I don't want to be just sitting like this, like a sniper on the deck. I was like, what have we become that we're afraid of a BB gun?
Yeah, no, it's the new world, man. It's the new world we're living in. No. I mean, when I was a kid, they were toys. You know, it wasn't something to be afraid of. It was like, it was no different from going to your backyard playing with cars. It was a toy when I was a kid. You know.
Well, like that movie, the Christmas Story about you'll shoot your eye out. That became the you'll shoot your eye out. How many people have you ever met in your life that had a patch on their eye, and you said, what happened? And they said, BB gun. Not one person. Ever.
I knew a kid who had one eye because he got in like a CD fight, throwing CDs like ninja stars. I mean, I was like, man, I didn't know you could do that. Like, you know, yeah. I mean, I could imagine like you throw a CD, it's like stuck in the kid's eye. Or I mean that'd be surprising, you know.
Well, when I was little, my brother, I have an older brother, and he was doing his homework at the desk in our room, and we'd been fighting about something, and I went over and I scribbled on his homework, so he'd have to redo it. And as I was running out of the room, he picked up a pencil and he threw it at me, and it went in my back. It stuck in my back, just like if somebody had thrown a knife. I still have a little spot, like the lead broke off, the lead part of the pencil. Who would have thought a pencil is that dangerous? We need to outlaw pencils.
No, I had that happen to me too. It was in the leg though. It's like, you know, it was like one of my friends in school just like I don't know what it was, just on a whim, thought it'd be funny to stab me with a pencil, just stab me in the leg. I was like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? And I have this little, like, looks like a little, like, dot tattoo on my leg now.
It's a dot, yeah.
It's like a blue dot. It's a blue dot. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you know. But, you know, here's the thing. If that were to happen now, imagine, you know, kid stabs kid with pencil in school. That'd be like front page news. You'd hear about it every day. When I was a kid, it's like the teacher's like, quit fooling around.
You kids quit stabbing each other.
I mean, what'd your parents do? Like, you know, your brother throws a pencil at you.
Yeah, I got in trouble for messing up his homework. You know, you're lucky that's all he did to you. You know.
Oh yeah.
Because
there you go. Yeah.
But that's what we become. The zero tolerance of school, like you were saying, the zero tolerance is just like stupid. Like somebody could go like this, and like, oh, you made a handgun. Yeah, no, yeah. Then you're suspended and getting therapy and medication for the rest of your life. You know. Yeah. You know what it is? It's a culture that doesn't. I mean, we talk about boys, you know, that they're not allowed to be boys. They're treated like dysfunctional girls basically in school. Boys roughhouse. Boys hurt each other. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. When I was a kid, me and my friends sometimes would come home from school and we just like wrestle for like 2 hours. I mean like beat each other up like MMA type stuff, and then we go, you know, hang out and play video games or whatever. It wasn't it was just something to do. I don't know. Yeah, well, it was the same thing with bullies. And when I was a kid, you know how bullies is horrible now, but when I was a kid, I had a guy that was constantly picking on me at school, just constantly. And my dad goes, "Well, why don't you just go down there and kick his butt and get it over with?" And I was like, "Well, you know, he's kind of, you know, I don't really want to. He's sort of bigger than me." Well, and my dad made my older brother, take me down and have a fight with the kid. And my brother and his friends told the other guy's friends, "Y'all stay out of this. This is between them." And we got in a fight. We fought it out. We sort of wrestled it, and you know, you do kids like, and he and I became friends after that. We actually became friends. I've had the same thing. Guys with like, you know, they're like, you know, you're hanging out in the schoolyard one day, and like some kid walks up to you and he's like, "Hey, you know, Billy wants to fight you." You're like what did I do? I don't even know who that kid is. I've never had a conversation with him. What are you talking about? You know, and sure enough, you have to go fight the kid, and then you're friends after. You know, I mean, it happened me with one kid, and you know, we got in a fight one week. We were like fishing together the next week. You know. Yeah. They were like, "Hey, that was pretty good. That's a pretty good punch you threw. You're all right." My dad was telling me he grew up in Hawaii, right? He never wants to go back. He said, you know, he doesn't have a lot of good memories for it because it's like, you know, tribal. I mean, it's a long story. I'm part Hawaiian, right? It's like tribal kind of culture, but they were a kingdom later. It's a long story. But anyways, they still have this kind of tribal culture though. And he was saying, you know, basically some kid will come up to be like, "Hey, you like beef?" And I guess that means like you like to fight. And you say, "Yes," it means you like to fight. You say, "No," it means you're a wimp and they're going to beat you up, right? And so he says what they do is they get, you know, when they were kids, the bigger kids would get all the small kids together and like, you know, like they're picking teams for like baseball, and they just like pit fight them, you know, like, you know, you two are going to fight now. And so my dad said, you know, he'd have to like fight every day when he was a kid. But, you know, but he said when he ended up moving to San Diego later in his life, right? And he said this kid walks up to him and says, "Hey, new kid, give me your money." And my dad is just like, you know, like 6-year-old, like hardened, like veteran fighter. And he's like, "You don't want my money." And the kid looks at him and he's like, "Okay." You know, that's the end of it. You know what I mean? It was like he didn't have to prove himself anymore. You know, you just had to have an attitude. Yeah, but you know, there's something in it. There's something in that for boys that I think is actually good for them in some weird way, and I don't know what it is. It's just it makes you who you are, I guess. And I think, you know, our generation, we can kind of relate to that. These new kids, I don't know if they can relate to it. Well, I think that we need to just let nature kind of be itself, you know, like boys will be boys. What boys will just pick up a stick and pretend it's a gun and never have had a toy gun before. You know, they do things. It's a weapon. Let nature sort of do its thing, and then you mold them into better men. Yeah, but I don't think we're trying to guide men at all. We have this whole attitude of, oh, they can just be whatever they want to be. Well, that's not guidance in any way, shape, or form. That's not teaching a boy to be a good man.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing too, is you learn how to refine it. You don't suppress it, you refine it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, for just as an example of this, me and my friend one time, there were these big, I don't know what they were, seed pods for flowers. And we're like, hey, these are cool. We picked them. And they're like these long stalks with these like big ball flower bulbs on the end. And like, I like slap him with it. And he just turns around, like hits me in the face, like full force. And my whole face swelled up. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
I've learned my lesson.
Like that was a bad idea. That whole concept was bad. He's actually a much better fighter than I thought I was.
Well, can you imagine? I grew up. My dad raised cattle for a while when we were young, and my brother and I used to take sticks and dip it into cow poop and sling it at each other.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
I mean, that's what I thought you guys did in the Midwest anyways. But
that's what I think everybody thinks we do anyway.
Yeah.
But can you imagine how that would go over now today if so you came in, Mom, he's throwing poop at me.
It'd be the end of the world. It'd be, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You'd have to be in a hazmat suit, sprayed down. You'd be in a hospital, checked for germs. And my mom was like, go there and wash it off with the hose.
Yeah, go hose yourself off. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I had that happen when I was a kid too. But that's the thing is learning through experience and learning, internalizing your own lessons through doing stupid things and realizing you probably shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to learn life lessons along the way. Well, something you said just made me think of this about. If guys don't know how to learn to fight a little bit or how to defend themselves, how are we supposed to defend our women? Remember, part of our job was to be able to defend your woman. What if you were attacked in an alley? Shouldn't you be able to defend your? What are we supposed to do now? No, stop. No, I use my words. Stop. This is not acceptable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, call them names.
Yeah.
Tell
you are a horrible person.
Yeah. I've never tried it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it worked. Can't say I've tried it. Yeah.
But don't you think at some point it would have been nice if you'd have learned how to protect yourself? If you'd have known how to I can fight off somebody if I need to, instead of just fighting is horrible, is never the way to resolve anything.
Well, and then there's the learning what you're capable of or not capable of. I mean,
yeah.
And, as a kid, I'm like, okay, that kid can beat me up. I thought I was tougher than him, but I'm not. Or for that matter, you get it's funny enough. I did martial arts as a kid too. I studied actually most of my childhood, until my later teenage years.
What belt do you have?
I was a purple belt in a Temi Aiki Jiu-Jitsu, but I did a bunch of other ones too. It was the entry-level instructor belt, right?
Ah.
But no, I loved it. But here's the thing you find with a lot of real martial art. I shouldn't say real. A lot of the old school martial artists. I won't make fun of the guys these days. But it was that when you learned how to fight real well, you learned that you didn't want to fight because you didn't feel the need to prove yourself. And I think you see that a lot with kids these days, but young boys especially, is that they've never had a validating experience. They've never, I think, gone through that state where they feel they have nothing to prove anymore. And I think there's something in older, kind of mature men where you have that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what makes a mature man? He's calm. He doesn't have to speak in this high pitched, excited voice all the time. He can chill out because he has nothing to prove. He's like, yeah, I've been there. I don't care. I don't care if you like what I say or don't like what I have to say. I'm not trying to impress anyone. Not trying to prove anything. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's that John Wayne attitude of very few words, but when you speak, ooh, watch out. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like the old guy. You're talking about the old guy that would just sit there quiet at a family meeting, But if he says something, the whole family go, "Wow, Grandpa, deep, huh?" That kind of like.
Yeah, when my grandpa was the Marine guy I was talking about. Yeah, he's like that. Yeah. He's pretty talkative these days. But when you were a kid, he wouldn't talk much. He'd just kind of like stare off. And when I was a kid, he just got back from like Vietnam and stuff. Like late 70s, right? This was like early 80s. He was pretty shell shocked. It didn't talk much, but if he talked, everybody would stop and listen.
Yeah. Well, now that you brought that up, don't you think it's weird? My dad was World War II, and you were talking about your grandpa Vietnam. Most of them did not talk about the war. Like I never heard my dad talk about the war. He would never sit around. When I was in Guadalcanal, there was none of that. But all you hear now from people is about the war, or what it was like when I was over there, what I saw when I was there. It's sort of weird, don't you think?
Yeah, no, it's true, actually. I remember growing up with my grandpa. You know what it was? I think he didn't want to shock us with it. He didn't want to bring us into the things that he experienced because he had such a negative experience with it. But, I remember, I do actually have one good memory that really had an impact on my life. As I was sitting with my grandpa one night, and he was drinking, I'm just hanging out with him, watching, old war movies with him. And, there's the question every young boy wants to know about a veteran. How many people did you kill? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They hate that question. They hate that question. Yeah. And I didn't know as a kid because I was a stupid kid, right? My grandpa, he takes a drink and he's like, he tells me a pretty high number, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, wow, cool. He got so mad. I'll never forget the lecture he gave me. He looks at me like he's never looked at me before. And he starts like kind of choking back his words, and he's tears kind of well up in his eyes, and he's like it's never cool to kill anybody. And he tells me what did he say? He said the first time you puke your guts out, you throw up, you realize that was a person who had a family and people who loved him and a mother and a father, and you took that from them. And he cries, and he's like he goes, then, next time you puke a little less. It's a little less. And he goes, and then eventually you don't feel anything. And he goes, and that's a scary state to be in. And it's really hard to come back from it. And at that moment, I kind of understood him a bit more, and really developed a lot more respect for him after that,
Yeah. My dad, like I said, I never heard him talk about it or anything. And then one day we went to Battleship Texas down in Houston, where they had the battleship that's still there, and you can tour the ship. And my dad was probably in his 70s, I guess. And he set up in the gun. He got up in the gun and sat down, and he held the gun, and he just started crying. My dad just started. I'd never seen him do that. He just sat there and started crying, and I'm getting chills now because I think it just all flooded back, because that's what he did on the ship. That's what he was a gunner's mate on his, and it was weird to just see that, in that it hit him like that moment came again. And I didn't talk to him about it. I didn't ask him about it. I didn't want to, but I knew how deep that must have hit him right then.
Yeah, well, there's two sides to it. I know. My great-grandfather, my side, he was a World War II veteran, and I never, before he died, unfortunately, he never told me any stories. I never heard anything about it. I have no idea to this day, I have no idea what he did. All I know, he was on the European front, but yeah, that's it. No, I know nothing else. Now, I think for young men that teaches two lessons. One is, when Grandpa tells you his war stories, you kind of understand this. Men, we like to have this heroic image. We like, it's a war. I think the reason we like war stories is because it's a state of life and death. And when people are in situations like that, their true characters come out. You see cowardice, you see bravery, you see leadership, you see sacrifice. A person's character is tested to the ultimate limits. And so I think in our culture we can appreciate that. At the same time, even my great-grandfather never talking about it. I see a man who was, I'd say, strong in character and who didn't want, he internalized it. He didn't want to put that burden on others. And I think that's also something that's admirable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think today a lot of people like to live through victimhood. Like they get their worth out of victimhood. I'm lactose intolerant. I can't have cheese. I can't. I think it's like that's the first thing out of their mouth when you instead of like you said, your grandfather ever went, well, I was a World War II vet. That wasn't like the first thing out of their mouth. Boy, I saw combat.
Yeah, no, even some of my friends these days are like that. Like one friend he did some serious stuff, man. But you ask him what he did, and if you're not his friend, he'd be like, oh yeah, I was a cook, as a chef, just flipping eggs. This guy was like special, spec ops, right? He's like, yeah, just cooked eggs for people, made omelets. I made a really good omelet. Everyone liked it.
I was flipping burgers. That's what I was doing.
Burger rotation technician.
Yeah, we had to give it a higher class name now, Yeah. But you were talking about the war and how you defined roles and characters. Remember how kids used to play that? We used to play soldiers. We used to play cowboys and Indians. We used to play things where one side was you wanted to win. You wanted to be the champion. You wanted to feel like you were the hero. Like we watched the old war movies, like you said, you were the drama, and you wanted to be the hero that charged the hill and planted the flag. You don't see that kind of attitude in kids anymore. It's like winning isn't everything.
It's the opposite. Here's the thing in my understanding. In the past, you had this striving towards greatness. Now the modern society, they put the lowest on the pedestal, having I can't go in the sun too long because the sun might burn me. I can't talk too loud because I'll look like I'm aggressive. I'm
oversensitive.
Yeah, it's this aspiring towards like total weakness. It's the opposite, right?
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about this the other day. I can't imagine being a checkout person at like a Whole Foods or a Vitamin Cottage and have to sit there and listen to everybody that comes through with that, I can't have milk. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't have. Can you imagine the complaint every day? Because that'd be the first thing they would say to you when they set something down. That I have to have almond milk because I'm lactose intolerant. Oh, I can't have real vegetables because I get gas. Like that. Because everybody wants to tell you those things instead of just check out my stuff and let me get along.
It's this glorifying victimhood culture, which is it's so bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to be one of those somebody's like that. I'm lactose intolerant. Oh, I'm intolerant of people like you. That's what I'm intolerant of.
Yeah. Can we say that? Is there a name for that?
Yeah, we've got to come up with a name for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess just to start closing it up now, I want to talk to you about your meme work, because one of the big things we see right now among the conservatives, the learning to laugh at all this madness, the memes, the meme wars. This is the big thing everyone talks about. And I know you're one of the guys who helps with some of the real popular memes. Tell us about your work with that.
Well, they say that the left can't meme. That's the saying. But there's a lot of guys that I've gotten doing work with. Carpe Dunkum is like he's Trump's big favorite meme guy, and then there's a couple of them that underneath that started a group, and it's called Meme World. And we all sort of work together give each other ideas, and like I'll do voiceover work for some of their videos. I've played several characters for them in the videos, and it's getting bigger and stronger because we all want to work together to make the absolutely the best memes possible. And several of the guys have gotten retweeted by Trump and getting millions of views. Memes are one way to get your word out without being censored by some of the social media. Like social media will look for keywords and things. They'll kick your tweet out, or won't let it get replied to, or they'll call it fake news and you're gone. Well, a meme is just it's comedy, so it's a way to get the word out.
And so, what's really behind it? It's if we listen to a lot of the mainstream media, they're like, oh, it's the Russian bots. Oh, it's political warfare. And I could just see you just at your computer, just like getting a funny idea and just laughing to yourself, like, snorting and, writing it down or something. I mean,
that's basically what it is. And a lot of us will say to each other when we post a meme, like, I hope my Russian bot meme gets a million views, because people automatically assume that it's coming from somewhere else, that, America can't be this smart. Yes, we are.
Oh, no.
Why do people, I just don't understand how they think that Trump is, I keep saying, like this is illegitimate presidency. 63 million people. How can you disregard 63 million people that voted for it? Like that's not true. That didn't happen. What kind of mentality is there?
Well, and it's interesting too that I think as people get burned out, there's two sides to it. There's the people who continue the outrage and continue the real extreme stances they have, and the conservatives seem to be they seem to be caring less and less. They're kind of relaxing into it, and they just think it's funny now. And I think that's why memes are so successful, is because people can actually just say, okay, this is actually kind of funny.
Yeah, and you can laugh at it and you can share it again. One of the things that I mentioned earlier, I don't said to you, but to somebody else, was I think the left made people afraid, really afraid to tell the truth. Because they were offended, they would complain, or you'd go to HR, you'd have to go to HR and you get written up. And if you shared a joke in the office, like, oh, don't do this, we've found offensive, blah, blah, blah. I think that is now swung back the other way. People are finally going, you know what? It is funny, and I don't care. I've got Trump on my side. We've got judges that'll stand behind me now.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. There's no legal arm behind political correctness anymore. The
fear of you losing your job over something offensive is not that strong anymore, because there's Go to the public and go, I lost my job because I said this about Trump. Are you kidding me? You know how many people would be behind you, or how many other people go, you can have a job at my office. I'll hire you.
Yeah, that's true. I guess just last question. You talked about how you were basically a public conservative as a comedian since the 90s, and you said it's gotten easier. Does that tie into it? Can you talk about that a bit?
Oh, how it's getting easier to be a comic that way, or just
conservative comic? You said you feel that actually the pressure is let off a bit from where it was before.
Well, yeah, I used to try to only talk about things from a right, like a conservative attitude. I won't say right wing, but conservative attitude about being this and doing the right thing. And now I'm not afraid to actually add a little political humor to my stand-up. Just a joke or two, like I don't know if I can get away with it on here, but one thing that that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden have in common, they don't know when to pull out. I mean, you can edit that out.
No, it's okay. Hey, free speech, man. It's okay.
But that's the kind of stuff that I would have not done before, because that's actually a political joke,
Yeah. All right, great. Steve, where can people? Steve MUDFLAP McGrew, everyone. Where can they find your work?
I always say just Google Steve MUDFLAP McGrew, because I've got Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, several different pages. That way, if you Google, everything shows up.
Good stuff. Well, Steve, pleasure having you on. I have to get you on again sometime.
Man, I love doing this with you. I like being able to talk to somebody that can relate about BB guns and playing war and getting stabbed with a pencil.
I got the scars to prove it. I got the scars. All right. Good stuff, man. All right, everyone, please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.
See ya.